It's welcome to this event where you'll get the opportunity to discover the power of Uspire. I'm chairman of Uspire. I enjoy working with the guys, loads of energy and enthusiasm. Today, we have got our own award-winning speaker. He is our own force of nature, Mr. Mark Francis, who is the epitome of the Uspire values of a provoke, energize, and transform. He is also deeply passionate about our vision, which is creating the finest commercial leaders in the world. So thank you for joining us. And I'm going to give a hand over to Amanda now, who's actually going to give us a brief introduction about Uspire as a business.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Colin. So welcome everybody. It can be lonely as a leader, and particularly as a commercial leader at the top at the moment. And as Colin said, we genuinely intend to energize and transform our leader community. And we know that successful leaders need support to grow, and successful leaders seek support to grow. So this community of leaders, and the reason why we're running these Discover Days, is to increase our community of leaders, because if we're looking to have a community of the finest commercial leaders in the world, well, then we need to meet them all. So I welcome our friends old and new today. It's really exciting. This is our biggest audience, and this particular topic is absolutely dead on for right now. So we focus on two things at Uspire, and particularly with our Uspire network, and they are awareness and effectiveness. So without further ado, I am going to hand over to Mark Francis, who is the epitome. He's our biggest and best energizer, and I'm going to welcome him to take us through the rest of the morning. Morning, Mark Francis.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. And if you could close that presentation, thank you, Amanda. So 40 years ago, give or take a few days, was my very first day in sales. And if you're like me and you think about it, you probably remember that very first day really well. And I certainly do. I was in a very big building, and there were only two rooms for salespeople. There was the coffee room, which we tended to frequent most of the time when we weren't out there. And the other room was called the holding room. And it was this vast, big, empty room with just a table, two chairs, and a number of sales targets. So on my very first day, it was 7:30 in the morning, and the tannoy went on. Would Mark Francis please come to the holding room? Would Mark Francis please come to the holding room? So with a little bit of trepidation, but mainly excitement, I went to the holding room, and my boss, Liz, called me over. She's great, by the way. And she said, grab a seat, Mark, grab a seat. Welcome, it's your first day, very exciting. She said, I'd love you to grab a piece of paper. Now, unfortunately, what a great start. They didn't have any paper. So I frantically looked around the room, and in the corner was a fax machine. Yeah, a fax machine. And I went over, and there was a piece of paper, very thin and kind of greasy. And there was a flip chart marker pen. So I was ready to go. And Liz said, I would like you to write down a number on your piece of paper. And the number I'm going to ask you to write down is the number of no's you think you need to get in order to get one yes. Number of no's you need to get in order to get one yes. So I eagerly wrote down my number. And she said, the reason I'm asking you to do that is in all of my experience with salespeople, the biggest thing that stops salespeople from being successful at selling is in their own heads. It's a fear of rejection. It's a fear of failure. It's actually a fear of no's. So target the no's, embrace them, and the more no's you get, by a numbers game, the more yeses. So what number have you got? And she said, well, I like your ambition, but this is a door-to-door sales job with people who've never met you before and who've never heard of the company that you represent. So in my experience, I want you to change that number. And actually the ratio, if you're really good, is more like 1 in 10. So I want you to write down the number 20. So I did that. And she said, when you've got 20 no's today, come back and see me then. Now, the reason I share that story with you is several. First of all, I still remember that advice and I still heed it 40 years later. And that means that Liz, in my view, is a brilliant leader, because she gave me a message that I took in a very positive spirit on day one. And at 3 p.m. on day one, when I'd made 15 calls and got precisely no yeses, I was still energized because I still had to do 5 more calls. And what actually happened, as you might have imagined, is because of that positive energy, I actually did 8 more calls because I got 3 yeses and I needed to have 23 calls to get 20 no's. And that was all because my leader inspired me, gave me direction, gave me focus. And so that is the focus of today's sessions. And I say sessions because I'm going to speak for about 45 minutes. I'm then going to give you a 10-minute break, and then I'm going to speak for another 45 minutes. Now, what's my aim on your behalf? It's the power of 3 things. And the power of 3 comes from a speech that Pippa Dunford made, where she talked about how important the power of 3 is. So inspired by you, Pippa, 3 aims for everyone today. Win back a key customer that you've lost. And the reason that first one is incredibly commercial is because Colin said, this is about the finest commercial leaders in the world. And that's you. That's everyone on this call, because I've seen the list. Now, the finest commercial leaders in the world, just like every other commercial leader, lose key customers. But the finest always win them back. So target number 1, I'd like you to think about and focus on a customer you've lost that you're going to win back. Target number 2, aim number 2, you online. How you show up on video calls like this one is absolutely vital, both as a leader of people and as a salesperson. So we're going to do a few tips in a moment about what you should do to have maximum personal impact online. And aim number 3, I'd like you to choose one element of what you hear today that triggers for you as a leader or as a salesperson. You think, I like that, that's good. But I'd like you to commit to educating someone else in it. And by educating someone else, it reinforces your learning. So those are the aims. Now, as I've already mentioned, I'd like you to be wearing 2 hats today. The first hat is a leader's hat. Everyone's a leader. Doesn't matter what your job title is, you have the opportunity to make a positive difference in people's lives. So that's the leader's hat. And it's Bondi Beach in recognition of Natalie Chung, who is phoning in from Australia and might be the furthest away. So Natalie, kudos to you. And the second hat is a salesperson's hat. Now I need to be a bit more rugged, don't I? So here's the rugged hat from Green Bay, Wisconsin, where if you're going to be successful in the winter, you need to dress properly and you need to be resilient. So you need to be a good salesperson. So that's the sales hat. So I'm appealing to everyone to wear 2 hats today as we go through everything we go through. We're also going to do a quiz. Now the quiz will have 4 sections. Each section, I'm going to give you 3 questions, and they will be relevant to each of the 4 elements of how to lead virtual sales. And so the first one is show up. So here are your 3 questions in terms of how to show up and how important it is to understand the brand that you bring online. So the way it's going to work is that if you get the answer exactly right, I'm going to give you 2 points. If you get close, and I'll define what close is, I'm going to give you 1 point. Now, we are all in the commercial world probably competitive. So let's see who gets the most points, and we'll share that in chat at the end of the session. Question number 1. Of the 5 largest organizations in the world, how many do you believe have a formal partnership with Microsoft Teams? Now, I'm going to tell you the 5 organizations with the largest number of people. Number 1, the US military. Number 2, the People's Liberation Army of China. Number 3, American retailer Walmart. Number 4, the National Health Service in the UK, NHS. And number 5, the fast food chain McDonald's. So question number 1, how many of those 5 do you think have a formal partnership arrangement with Microsoft Teams? Question number 2. Now this comes from the Steve Semance partnership, and it's focused in terms of fast-moving consumer goods. And Steve does a future of work conference, which is brilliant, actually. And he did a survey of all of the companies that were on the future of work conference in December. And the question was, how many of the people that you have in employ say they are happier now than before COVID? So let me be very clear about this. Still in full-time employment, we're asked, how many of you are happier than you were before? What percentage? And the final question, interesting one in terms of how you show up and how you communicate. This is a Forbes magazine survey. How many members of staff prefer to be communicated by leadership using video? So I prefer video to emails or town halls or goodness what else. What percentage said video? So remember, you're scoring yourselves. It's competition. Add up the total of marks that you get. You get 2 points if you said all 5 of those largest people organizations in the world have a formal partnership with Microsoft Teams. And that's because President Xi has a close relationship with Bill Gates going back 20 or 30 years. And so it's all 5. If you said 5, you get 2 points. Close is 4. So if you said 4, you score 1 point. That's question number 1. Question number 2, how many people in full-time employ say that they are happier now? And the answer is 71%. So that's really important as leaders, that we recognize that there are plenty of people who say, do you know what? And I just reflect on myself now. Before COVID, I was doing slightly more than 100 flights a year, and I was away from home about 100 nights a year. During COVID, I've seen my beautiful wife every single day. And I have to say, that is better than being away from home 100 nights. So you've got plenty of people in your employment who are happier now because they don't have to travel to work and come back, et cetera, et cetera. So don't think everyone is just waiting from a work perspective to go back to the old world and they'll be happier. Question number 3, what percentage of people in employment said, you know what, I prefer to be communicated with a video because it's more personable, because it's more accessible. I could pick it up later because it's on the web or whatever it is. 76%. So this is important. Grant Lee Buff, one of the great speakers at our Uspire network, talked about make sure you communicate on video, whether that's on your website, whether that's staff communication, whether that's customer influence. Chester sent a video of an example of him running an online training session to a company we've never met. And it's brilliant because Chester's brilliant. It's a 2-minute video and you go, oh my goodness, that is excellent. When can you start working with us? Remember, this is a company that never met us and we are now working with them. So think video, think brand, think messaging. So step 1 of great lead virtual sales is show up. And I'm going to talk to you about 2 elements of show up. The first is how you look on screen on Zoom. And I'm going to give you 3 tips. They are so wonderfully simple, but in my experience, and I'm going to be very specific about this, in my experience, without training, no salespeople that I work with follow these 3 tips. The better ones follow 2, but no one follows 3 without guidance. The 3 tips are: eye level. So the camera that is what I'm talking into now is propped up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books, 6 hardback books. And it means that my camera on the computer is exactly where my eyes are. So as I speak to you person to person. And that means I make a greater connection psychologically than if the camera was at a different level. In most cases, people have the camera lower than the eyes, which means I'm talking down to you. Disastrous. Next here is lighting. Make sure that the most lit element of what people see is your face and/or the message you want to give. Now, how do you do that? The best way is to make sure the window is behind your computer. And that means I've turned my table around so the big window is behind my computer. And this is natural light. That's the best way. If you can't do that for whatever reason, the recommendation is buy a light, professional light that makes this fully lit, not shadowed. Now, the biggest surprise is the last one. I want you to talk directly into the camera. Now, that's totally unnatural, totally unnatural. What's natural? And so I've got the great Ken McIntyre, bottom right on my screen. My natural instinct is to look at someone I know and talk like that. Look at the impact on you. It feels comfortable for me. It's not great for Ken. So I'm going to give everybody 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to look at the clock and we're going to put a clock on it. I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes to turn your camera off if it's on now. And I want you to make the adjustments we've just talked about. Better lighting, eye level, make a difference. Your 2.5 minutes start now. So in just under a minute, I'm going to be saying, turn your cameras back on. So if you then have a look at each other, see how we've sharpened up that image online. That's the intent. So that's just about 40 seconds away now. So if you could turn your cameras back on. So in gallery, we can have a look at everybody. We've got 93 participants on the call. So we get an impression. And well done, I'm seeing some changes. That's really cool. That's really cool. Nice stuff. Now remember, this is about your brand. This is what you do to show up online. And as Amanda said to me, is this a lumberjack convention when I turned up in this shirt? And the reality is this is a conscious choice, because I wanted to talk to you as if we were just having a chat in a cafe or something like this, and I just wear a relaxed shirt. Yesterday morning, Chester and I were on a call with a Japanese client, and we were wearing jackets and shirts because it's about what image do you want to send. And in Japanese culture, being smart is a very important element of influence. So it's about consciously show up. So that's point number one about showing up. Get your visual image clear, effective, and professional. Second point. The second point about showing up is frequency. And the real challenge we have as salespeople is, how do I show that I am really interested in my customer without pestering them? It's a super challenge when you send a proposal, for example, and you're thinking, how long do I wait to follow that one up? How frequent should the communication be? And I've got a couple of tips for you. One of them is ask. Just ask them, how often would you like me to be in touch? That's a pretty good one. Second tip, and again, I learned this at the Grant at the Birth session. He said, just follow them. Follow them on LinkedIn, follow them on Facebook, follow their company, and follow the key stakeholder. And it enables a number of things. It enables you to know what's happening in their company, because they're posting about the things that they care about on a relatively regular basis. So you can like that, all right? So that means that you are in touch, you're showing you're connected, but you're not disturbing their natural flow. They can check that you're following them, right? And that you're liking what they say. The second element is that you can comment. And comment is pretty cool because it gives you the opportunity to endorse their strategy, their thinking, their feeling. So showing up, those are the two main elements: how you look and the frequency of how you show up. Now, next. Engage. Now, I'm indebted to someone that we're working with at the moment for what I'm now going to show you in terms of engage, because there are two main elements we're going to cover. And I'm indebted to someone who works for the migration division of the United Nations. And I'm very fortunate with Peter Cooper to have worked with the United Nations now for about 4 months. And it's a business that we've never met, that Peter and I sold to. And they said, yes, you've won the contract. So it was really exciting. And the contract essentially was, could you train our in-market leaders to be able to educate online? So it was an online master trainer need. And that's quite a privilege, because we were training chiefs of mission in many countries around the world how to be a trainer online. So it was really exciting. And one of the elements of that was that they had to train us as observers and accreditors to show how they'd learned the skills we'd taught them. And one of those people is an astonishing man called Wanasai Sitore. Now, Wanasai comes from Zimbabwe originally, and he's done a lot of work for the UN in Africa. But lately, he's been working in the Pacific, in Papua New Guinea to be specific. And he ran a training session when he talked about, how do you influence local government? And he said, it's not easy. And he said, you have to do one thing. And this is what Wanasai did. I'm going to share exactly what he did, because it was totally inspiring and helped clarify for me, how do you engage? Wanasai said, I want you to imagine that everyone that you are trying to influence is a fruit in a fruit bowl. And he said, just look at that fruit bowl and notice every single fruit is totally different. Different size, different energy, different texture, different value. Everyone is totally different. So if you're trying to influence a group of people, a group of decision makers, you have to bring a complete flexibility of style that will, in one case, connect with an evangelist who believes in what you're trying to do and sell, and they are so supportive, they're sweet on your idea. But you also have to influence someone who actually isn't sweet on your idea, a little bit sour on your idea, but they're an equally important influencer. So how do you influence such a diverse group of people? And we talk a lot with the Uspire group of color energies. And so, yes, we have red, we have yellow, we have green for people energy, and I've used grapes for cool blues. And so it's understanding how to engage means you need to flex your communication style, not your customer and not your team. So you take responsibility for adapting communication to make sure it resonates with every beautifully diverse person that you're trying to lead or trying to influence. And so that was one size way of introducing the concept of really adaptive online communication. And as you can imagine, because I'm sharing it with you, it was unbelievably resonating with his learning audience, to the point where I keep a fruit bowl next to my computer to use it with any of the training I do to bring up that point. And he said, because he's got a lovely sense of humor, he said, you know what, if you can show that you can speak the different language, all of your customers will be incredibly grateful. So that's the great Wanasai Sitole. So here's an example of what we're talking about. It's about adapting communication. So I was working with a major pharmaceutical company. They have quite high levels of scientists and blue energy. And I ended a session by saying, how do you feel about that learning session? Now notice my language was feel, and I had an audience that was incredibly logical. And so how do you feel didn't resonate. And I knew it didn't resonate because all of the faces looked at me online, by the way. I had a large gallery view as though I was mad. You know, it's like, what's he asked? I don't know. Don't understand the question. And that's because I was talking a different language. So that's the point about how do you engage. Now, the second point about how to engage is a really important one. If you're trying to connect with people of influence who you've never met in person. So just think about that for a moment. A company or a person you've never met in person because of COVID, and you're looking to make a significant engagement with them, get their attention and interest. How do you do that? Well, I'm going to talk about how I would do it without thinking about it. And my colleagues know that I tend to be quite just do it and don't necessarily always think through the implications. So I'm very guilty of not getting what I'm about to explain to you right very often. And it's, what are the first 3 words that I say in the subject bar of my email? Because in the main, I'm going to use email, in the main. And so what are the first 3 words I choose to use? And if I don't think about it, they're terrible. What they are is vague or solution orientated. So what I mean by vague is catch up, question mark. You know, that's not exactly going to cut through the noise of our current world. So I don't think that's a smart way to do it. Equally, it's easy as a salesperson to put in the subject bar what I'm selling. And actually what I'm trying to do is get a meeting, a formal interaction. I shouldn't try and sell anything in that engagement step. So I want each of you just to think now, when you write on a subject bar, and we're talking email, and we're going to talk about other mediums as well, what do you write? Does it tend to be your agenda and your solution? Or is it what the customer wants to know, information that they care about and they don't know, or clarity of a problem that they currently have? So that's a question to you to reflect on. How do you currently engage, particularly in terms of those first 3 words? Now, I'm going to give you a quiz now. And remember, you're building up points over the quiz. And after the quiz, I'm going to give you some examples of 3 words that I've seen customers use that really do hook attention. So here's quiz number 2. Now, this one is from a McKinsey Pulse survey. The first two questions come from McKinsey Pulse survey run in September. And the industry is the medical device and pharmaceutical industry. So that's the specific industry these stats come from. Question number one. In COVID, in the industry that we're talking about, the number of emails has gone up 263% business to business. So the number of emails is 2.5 times what it was before COVID. So just imagine if you're the recipient, if you're the main decision maker, you're head of procurement in a company, and you're getting 2.5 times as many emails. Here's the question I want you to answer. How many, as a percentage of those emails, are being opened? So that's business to business, emails in the med devices and pharmaceutical sector. How many of the B2B emails are being opened? That's question number one. Question number two. In terms of Microsoft Teams, Zooms, WhatsApp, FaceTime, all of the means to communicate as we are today, visually online, virtually, how long is the average business to business meeting? So a Zoom like this, how many minutes do you believe is the average length of a business to business meeting? This is super important, of course, which is why I'm asking the question. And number three, it's a Gallup survey, and this is taken during COVID, and it is all organizations in the UK. And what percentage of staff say that they are fully engaged in their company? So it's an engagement survey, really. What percentage say they're fully engaged with their company? So those are the three questions, and here are the three answers. Remember, if you get it exactly right, it's 2 points. If you are within 7% of the number, you get 1 point, okay? Number of emails opened. 1 in 3. So that's why when I'm talking about engagement, what you say in that subject bar determines, are you in the 1 in 3 that are opened or the 2/3 that are utterly ignored? So that's why that's so important. 33% opened. How long is the average meeting? Now, this is an important stat because face-to-face, business-to-business meetings in the sector that I'm talking about, pharmaceuticals and med devices, it's 54 minutes. But since COVID, online, it's 17 minutes. So of course that's important because that means you need to sharpen and shorten your messages. You need to be on it. The good news is that you can be much bolder and much more assertive with decision makers. So question number 3, what is the percentage of staff that say in the UK at the moment they are fully engaged in the organizations in which they work? 15%. 15% fully engaged. So if you put your leader's hat on, and that is your organization, there's work to be done. So let's now come back to some examples of subject bar. So subject bar, and I said email earlier, but I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about this is any medium. But here's some examples. I'm going to use some examples. One of my good friends is a distributor. He's a distributor across Europe, and he's become really specialized in stock clearance. So classically in COVID, you're getting stock pileups and you're also getting overstocks in a number of different areas. So his expertise at clearance is pretty useful, as you can imagine. However, the customers that he manages mainly are retailers and suppliers to retailers, and they couldn't be more busy. So cutting through the noise to get people even to open his emails has been a challenge. So this is an email subject bar that he uses, which seems to work really well. And actually it's 2 words. Stock headache, question mark. Stock headache. Now, just remember what I said earlier. If you focus on the problem of your customer, that's going to trigger better than your solution, right? So the problem is I've got stock and I don't know what to do with it. It's clogging up my warehouse. It's a cost, all of those things. So stock headache, question mark. Here's a second example. And we work a lot with people who supply to hospitals. And again, cut through to a clinician who's never been busier, never been more mentally exhausted, but does have major challenges. How do you do that? And how do you do it in 3 words? Well, I'll give you the context before I give you the example. The situation is ICU, so it's intensive care unit. And one of the challenges is that because of the number of patients and the relentlessness of those number of patients, the challenge is, how do you induct volunteer new staff who've come from other departments all over the hospital to help in ICU, where the role is incredibly specialist? How do you do that? How do you induct people quickly when you're too busy yourself to naturally do that? And so the supplier wrote the following 3 words in the subject bar: start nurses faster! Exclamation mark. Those are the 3 words. Now, here's one that I've used with success, actually, and this is for those companies where the sales teams have been busier than ever and have moved more into almost order takers. And in retail, that's quite significant in a number of sectors where it's just about supply demand. The demand has gone up exponentially. So you're almost not selling anything. You're just managing, can I find the stock and get it to you in any kind of decent time frame? And so one of the challenges, if you're a sales leader, is how do you bring back sales skill a year after your team has needed it? Because the skill has faded in salespeople who are no longer on the cutting edge of selling. And so the email that I sent to the head of sales to try and generate interest was sales skill fade, question mark. So there's the power of 3 again: sales skill fade, question mark. And it generated a response from the head of sales saying, yes, it's something I'm really thinking about and I fear. What can you do to help? So I just want to take a little bit of a time out for everybody and get you to reflect. And this is very personal now, whether it's you as the leader hat on or you as the salesperson hat. Of all the things I've said so far in terms of show up and in terms of engage, what 1 or 2 things are really triggering for you? So it's a reflective question. And I want you to write it down. I know some of you are, so it's natural for some of you to be doing that anyway. Or if you're more modern, you're capturing it in some other device. But I'd love you to capture in your own intention, what are you going to do? What have you learned? And what are you going to do? And in particular, I'd like you to trigger the win back customer. How am I going to win back a customer that, if I win back, will bring lifetime value to my business? We lost them for whatever reason. How can I win them back? Using some of the things we've already talked about. Showing up online, getting the frequency of your messaging right, as well as the messaging, and then engaging using the right platform that works for them, not just the platform you naturally use. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to reflect on that. I've got a lovely picture of Gemma Paxman, who is taking copious notes. Hiya, Gemma. Great to see you. Gemma's already doing what I just suggested. I've had the pleasure of working with Gemma for many years. So Gemma's already doing what I just suggested. But what I want to do is really focus everyone on capturing what you have taken so far and making a decision. What am I going to do with it? How might I apply what I've just heard? So I'm going to give you a minute now in silence to reflect on that. So, a couple more tips from me. And these are tips from experience about how to engage online in particular. Remember, this is about lead virtual sales. And one of them is, and it's now a mantra within our business at Uspire, it's 2 up. It's 2 up. So whilst I've got experience of selling, as I mentioned, it's about 40 years now, and I'm quite good at it. There's a challenge, and the challenge is 2 minds are better than 1. And one of the amazing advantages of COVID is that actually I can access one of my colleagues who is an expert in the topic I'm trying to share with a customer, and they can join me. It's far easier for us to get the expert to join us. So one of our clients is a fabulous business called Thai Union. They're a Thai business. They're all over the world. They specialize in fish. And we work a lot with a North American business. And they have in their operation in LA, they have a chef called Chef John. And he's absolutely brilliant. So I've been in the kitchen and I've watched him be creative. He is amazing and is a superb communicator. So I've said to the salespeople, give me a reason why you wouldn't want Chef John on pretty much every call when you're talking about a new product. Why wouldn't you have someone that good, such an expert? And so that's something I'd like to trigger in your thinking as well. When is it appropriate to have 2? And it might be that it's because the person that you've got as a partner connects better with the people on the call. So that could be the reason. And the best example I can share with you of this being successful is recent for us, where we were brought in very late to a pitch to the United Nations. And we didn't know them, but they knew that we'd been doing master trainer as a business. We'd managed to get that message across. And they invited us to pitch. And Peter Cooper and myself pitched. Now, Peter and I have very different styles. I'm the sort of Tigger, energy, enthusiasm. Peter's much more considered and thought through and calm. And on the very first call, we had the 3 main decision makers, and it was an hour call. And we just engaged, and we engaged at different levels, 2 different people on the call, but also in different style and very, very relaxed. Now, we were fortunate to win the contract because it's utterly inspirational to work with the migration team because they're doing some amazing things. And one of the key decision makers has just moved from the United Nations to another business. And I grabbed the opportunity to give her a call and said, I'd love to learn from you why you gave us the contract, because you had existing suppliers, etc. What was it that we did that helped us to win? And she said, it's the way you engaged in the very first meeting. And I said, okay, can you be more specific? She said, well, there were 2 of you, and we loved the different styles, and we felt listened to. You just listened. You showed that you were listening physically and verbally, and you didn't try and sell anything. And she said, I've got to be honest with you, at the end of that 1 hour, I came off the call and I said to my colleagues, I simply love those guys. I can't wait to work with them. And that was lovely feedback, because it's doing what we said we need to do here, right? It's how you engage. It's respect the difference and spend your energy learning, not trying to sell. So after the break, we're going to talk about what that first L stands for. Because at first, when I was putting this together for this session, I thought has to be the word learn. And the more I thought about it, I thought, no, it's not. I think the hardest challenge for us as mature leaders and mature commercial people is actually unlearning. So that L can't be learn. When you come back, I'll let you know what listen stands for, because I'm going to give you a 10-minute break. Please use that time wisely. Move, re-energize, do whatever you want to be able to come back refreshed in 10 minutes. And I'm going to say that that is at 44 minutes past the hour. So 16 minutes to the, if your numbers drop dramatically when you give people a break, you're getting lots of things wrong. So thank you so much for coming, for rejoining. Great to see everybody.
Yeah.
A couple of things I wanted to remind you of as you come back. It's almost reiterate some key messages, but I also want to pick up on some of the things that have been said in chat. A really important one from Gordon Morin. He said, to the question that was 71%, he put 70%. Does that count? And of course, Gordon, it doesn't count. You're a numbers man. It's 1% out. You only get 1 point, not 2. That's a key point. The other thing is, please use chat more. And that's to share experiences, share observations. Actually, more than anything, share your ideas. So I'm sharing top tips, but you'll have others that are triggered by what I say. So please feel comfortable to write a lot in chat. And I'll carry on. I won't be checking chat, but Chester will for me, and will be sending me little cryptic notes saying, you might want to answer this one. So that's pretty cool. I do want to call out one of our brilliant speakers on the network, Kanthi Ford, because Kanthi quite rightly at the break, when I said it's 44 minutes past the hour, she says, not in India, it isn't. And we do have callers from India. So yeah, it was 10 minutes. That's the main message. So thanks, Kanthi, for that. A couple of other things just to reflect on. Remember when I started the session, I started immediately with a story. I went straight into 40 years ago today, give or take a few days. And there's a very, very specific reason for that. If you want to make a quick connection with someone else, storytelling does something in the other person's brain. It's a physiological thing. It's called neurocoupling. So probably, it's not absolutely pure science, but probably when I said, I remember my first day very clearly, what happens usually is you reflect in some way, even subconsciously, on your first day. And so what happens is your emotions are triggered in the same way. That sort of, wow, yeah, I was so naive then, goodness me. That's triggering in your brain, which means what I say has had the effect of neurocoupling. So all of the evidence suggests that storytelling is an absolutely essential element of connecting, engaging, influencing someone else. So I wanted to call that out. The other thing is, we had a brilliant speech by Dave Thomas. We've had more than one, actually. And Dave is a memory man. He's a remarkable memory man, world champion memory man. And just out of interest, the way you do world championships in memory is, one of the ways is you get a number of packs of cards, and they're a large number, 20 packs of cards, and you're given 20 minutes to memorize the sequence. And Dave can do that, which is just extraordinary. He ran a session for us about online impact, and he gave 2 tips that have really resonated with me, and I want to plant them in your minds as well. He said it's so easy to conceive being online as a little bit of a chore. It's like, well, if I had a choice, I'd come and see you face to face. So it's a bit awkward, and therefore we're just going to get through it. And he said that's disastrous mindset. And the mindset Dave recommended really struck with me. He said there are 2 things you need to consider when you are leading meetings online. Number 1, it's a performance. And so bring that energy, bring that vibe, so people are entertained to an extent. And he said that's really important because we are all back-to-back meetings. And therefore, if yours is the one that brings energy and performance, it's a winner. The second thing is be personable. So truly connect on a human level. And that's why looking into the camera is emotional connection. That's why adapting your style and learning what people think and feel is a vital element too. And those are great tips from Dave, which I'm very much thinking about as we're going through this session as well. Another thing that was in chat is, what about standing up? Now, big recommendation about standing up. When you want to bring energy that you don't naturally have if you're sitting down, stand up. If you are getting towards the end of the day and your physical energy is reducing, stand up. If you want to be particularly assertive with a team member or a customer, stand up. And if you want to have impact in a larger audience where your energy transmits through the screen, stand up. Now, it's interesting because I've got a large audience now and I'm not standing up. And the reason I'm not standing up is because my energy is dangerously high. I get excited and standing up makes me more energetic. And I need to calm down. So it's deliberately not what I'm doing today, but it's a conscious choice. And so that's the advice about standing up. So as you can see, listen is step 3 of virtual influence online. Listen. Do you remember I said before the break, it's not learn. Learn's an outcome of listening. So it's listening first. But the big challenge I think we all face, because we're all mature, aren't we, is unlearning. Is unlearning something that is so ingrained in me that I just keep doing what I've always done without thinking about it. So the biggest challenge in step 3 is to unlearn. And I'm going to say 2 things about unlearning, and I wonder if they trigger for you. Here's the leader unlearn, and I do reflect on myself in this, and I need to unlearn thinking I need to do all of the talking. I need to make all of the decisions. I need to tell you what to do. I need to have clarity when there's no clarity. That's the leader's role. No, I don't think it is. I think you need to be collaborative, particularly when the solution isn't clear. And particularly if you believe, like I do, everyone has talent. So you just got to bring it out. So as a leader, maybe the unlearn is to speak less and ask more. And now as a salesperson, this is an easy one for me because I'm still trying to unlearn this one. And it's unlearn selling. Stop trying to sell. Learn first. Learn genuinely, deeply, with curiosity before you think about selling, which is why our final step is lead. Our final step is sell. It's not the first or second or third step. You should be learning. You should be listening. You should be checking before you move into lead. So here is the next stage of the quiz. Now, keep totaling up your scores. Please put in chat where your score is. It'd be great to see where we're at in terms of progress on scores. Peter Cooper very kindly told me he's got 1 point, so he might not be at the top of the leader list. So here you go. Here's the next quiz. 3 questions. Andreas Solder has got 2, so you're definitely beating Peter. Well done, Andre. So this is from the Harvard Business Review, and it's about communication skills. And the first question is, we spend a lot of our time every day communicating, and we communicate in many different ways: writing, emails, speaking, listening. What percentage of a human's communication is listening? So we're communicating, but we're communicating as a listener. What percentage of our normal day is listening when we communicate? Question number 1. Question number 2. In terms of the number of words people tend to speak in a given minute, it's something, Dave Thomas talked to us about, something like 175 in terms of speaking pace. So you're getting 3 words a second, right? It's quite a lot. What percentage of the words we listen to are remembered? What percentage of the words we listen to in the time that we're listening are remembered? And question number 3, what is the percentage of importance of words in terms of the message we receive? So I'm going to be a bit specific about this one. The message we receive comes from words, it comes from the body language by which those words are spoken, and it comes by tone and style and pace and timing. So all of those elements make up the whole message. What percentage are the words alone in terms of the message we receive? So Here are your answers. 2 points if you're exactly right, and I'll tell you the margin for error for 1 point. So most of our communication skill is listening. And that's why we wanted to focus on it today. Because if it isn't a natural strength, it's something you can and should practice. So it's 55%. And here's the point. If your Zoom calls are just you presenting and just you talking, you're going to get about 1/5 of what you say that is retained, approximately 19%. So if you scored within 5% of 55 or of 19, either way, you score 1 point. So I just want to come back to what we said earlier about visual imagery, because the percentage of impact of words in terms of what we retain is only 7%. So what I hope I'm triggering is this point about how do I use my visual messaging to land a message which my words alone won't land. So just to bring to life these stats, this is from a professor in California, Albert Morabian. And an example just to bring it to life. When someone says, "I love you," how do you know it's true? And as a good friend of mine in Paris says, it is in the eyes. You either feel it or you don't. And so this is the point that body language will tell us, are those words genuine and true? Yes or no? It's the body language, it's the eyes, it's does it connect heart to heart that actually lands the message. I'm going to give another example. So if you can see my face, if you pinned it, if it's full screen, I'm going to ask you a question physically, and I want you to answer it quite quickly in your own mind. Okay, so I'll repeat that. I'm going to show you a physical question, and you're going to answer it in your own mind. What's the language of the deaf? Now, just think what you thought. Did you think Braille? Because what I was doing physically was reading Braille. And the language of the deaf is sign language. See you later. Is sign language. So notice how the body was much more dominant than the words. And you either answered it incorrectly or you hesitated to then answer it correctly. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. Oh, wait a minute, I think, no, language of the deaf, I think it's Braille. So my body was affecting how you responded to the question way more than the words. So we thought that was really important, because if you're going to listen, you should listen with your heart, with your eyes, as well as your ears. And that's why we come back to the tip about how you show up online. When you speak straight into the camera. And when you listen, look at the body language. So I can see Mark Harris on my image here. I can see Lynn Reynolds. And when you're speaking, I am going to look at your body language. And when I'm speaking, I'm going to look at you into the camera. So these are skills about how you show you're listening online as well. So here's something that I picked up from one of our speakers. And I want you to think about it in terms of your team. So this is you as a leader, and it's your team that either work for you or you're a peer within a team. And it's something that I learned this year from Lynn Leahy. So Lynn is one of our speakers on the Uspire network. It's been an astonishing year, actually. I've learned more in the last year listening to Colin Wright and Lynn Leahy and Mark Fritz and all of our speakers than I've probably learned in the last 20 years. And the session that Lynn ran was, it was game-changing for me. And what she talked about were the 5 drivers. The 5 drivers that affect how we react and how we behave. 5 drivers. They come from a psychologist called Kahler, K-A-H-L-E-R, and there are 5 of them. Now, the first introduction of this, I'd like you to think, what are yours? So what are the things that drive your behavior? from this list. That's the first thing. And I'll tell you what you do next after you've seen what the first 5 are. So these are the 5 drivers from Caleb. I'm going to give you a personal example of this, because right at the start of COVID, it couldn't have been more clear once Lynn explained this to me, that the behaviors that I was exhibiting even more in extreme were hurry up and try harder. And what did that mean? That meant when COVID struck, and as a face-to-face trainer, I lead the academy within Uspire, the capability programs we do with champion-led change. And the number of face-to-face trainings kind of fell off a cliff April, May last year. So in my head, I thought, I've got to come up with a solution. I've got to find a way to connect strongly with my customers. And what did that mean in terms of my behaviors? A couple of things. It meant that I started to think and behave, work harder. The way to come through a problem like this is just to work longer hours. So get up at 5 a.m. and walk the dog quickly so that you can get on with work and get to the end of the day and still be working. And by the way, that journey can't just be linear. I've got to do lots of things at once as well, because I've got to hurry up. I've got to get on with it, because there's, time waits for no one. Now, all of those behaviors in my reflection come from those 2 drivers. And in order to optimize my performance, I have to break that cycle, because there are good things about that. There's a relentlessness that's pretty cool, but there are things that are very negative in terms of how I communicate with the people in my house, how I communicate with customers, my team at Uspire. So now, just reflect for yourself. If there was 1 or 2 of these drivers that probably drive your behaviors, which ones are they? I coach plenty of people who are a be perfect driver. And it's interesting, because that's a healthy thing, isn't it? Keep striving for excellence. And it is something that can create stress and personal frustration if you stick on that too hard. Or if you're a please others, that you can't say no to anyone is great customer service. Customers love that, and so do our colleagues, but it's an impossible one if you say no, never. And this point about be strong is a fascinating one for leaders, because I was always brought up to believe that to be a leader, you had to be strong. You had to have all the answers, and you should never ask for help, should you? Well, if that's your driver, that's your danger. So, as I said, the first thing I wanted to do was to get you to reflect, what are the drivers that drive your behavior? And the second thing is, I'd love you to think about your close working team, whether they work for you or whether you're a peer in a team. What do you think the evidence suggests are the drivers of your team? What are the things that come before behavior, that are the paradigms that are exhibited in behavior and in communication? And the reason I'm sharing that is because it's going to help you to understand those points of difference and why someone says what they say when they say it. So the beautiful personal example for me, and remember the hurry up driver in me. We as a business decided we thought it would be a brilliant thing to do, to run boostcasts, to do some podcasts during the pandemic to help customers, to help anyone who could do with some advice. So we set up these podcasts. But the reason I'm sharing it with you is we made a decision we would do this at a board meeting. And I said, right, great. Well, the first one will be on Tuesday. It's like, there's the hurry up driver, isn't it? There's the hurry up. We've got to get on with this. It's a good idea. And of course, quite rightly, it's like, if you're going to do something well, take a little bit of time to prepare it. And so fortunately, I've got colleagues who are Be Perfect driver as an example that really helps, or certainly helps me, to understand that to be brilliant, you need to exhibit the best elements of your driver and just be conscious of not overdoing it. So what I'd like you to do is just take a moment now. I'm going to give you a minute, and I'd like you to think of one person that you work with closely and reflect on the behaviors and communication style that you see in them, and think, what driver do they have? Okay, so it's 1 minute, one person that you know well, and by the way, it could be the customer you want to win back, your choice. What driver do you think they exhibit most? Okay, 1 minute. It's great to see so many things in chat, by the way. Thank you. There's one element of chat that I do want to come back to, because I think it's really thought-provoking. If meetings online in certain sectors have gone down from a face-to-face of 54 minutes on average to 17 minutes, how do you build rapport quickly in 17 minutes? Because the point made in chat is the thing that people tend to sacrifice is connecting. And my take on that, and it's something that we learned as a team at Uspire, is that we don't allow the tasks of business to come first. And what we mean by that is that we start every meeting with a reconnect, and we just say, how are you? How are you feeling? What's new in your life? And we force that. Now, can you do that in a 17-minute meeting? You can. It just means it's a little bit shorter. And you could use chat as an example. Use chat to score out of 10 how comfortable you feel in life at the moment. And so a group could all answer that. And you are connecting on a human level first, and then allowing the 16 minutes you have left to get on with business. So Colin wrote in chat, ABC used to stand for always be closing, and perhaps it should stand for always be connecting, which I thought was a pretty cool build on that. In our online Presenting with Impact program, we talk about ABCD. So we've created a learning platform where you can access our Presenting with Impact 100% online, which is pretty cool and was quite a pivot for us as a business. For us, ABCD stands for A is audience. Start by thinking about your audience. B is what behavior do you want to trigger in them in the session and after it. And C, step 3, is content. And that's a really massive unlearn, because in business, for me, when someone says, could you put a presentation together? My first instinct is I grab a computer and I start putting a PowerPoint together. So my brain and my learning and my behavior and habit goes to content first. And we believe audience should be first, so that you adapt your style completely and you engage and listen to the audience first. So thanks for those bits of chat. I think they're really good builds. Thank you. In terms of the final step, and remember, this is a sequence and you've earned the right to lead and or you've earned the right to sell. So I'm going to say that again. You've earned the right. You've shown up at the right frequency using the right medium. One of our German customers absolutely loves to send audio WhatsApps as the form of communication. So I use audio WhatsApps back. So you're adapting to what they want, both in terms of style and medium. That's really cool. So if you follow this, you've earned the right to lead. And so in this last section, I'm going to talk very specifically to you as a leader. Remember, I said you're a leader, whether you have a title of leader or not. And the quiz is going to exemplify about how I believe all of us can, should make a difference in the wider society in which we work. And so it's a little bit of a provocative quiz. And question number 1. This is Gallup, by the way. It's a Gallup survey, women in work. What percentage of women in work say that they are satisfied with the decisions of their organization? And just to give you a bit of context, same question was asked of men, and they said 70%. So 70%, 7 out of 10 said, yeah, the leaders in my business, yeah, I'm satisfied in the main with their decisions. What percentage of women said they're satisfied with the decisions of their leadership and organization? Question number 1. Question number 2, Women in Work survey by Gallup. What percentage of women said that they feel during COVID, women in business, feel that they are always on? And that's the expression, always on. I just can't switch off. If I'm not managing my partner, I'm managing the kids. And if I'm not managing the kids, I'm on constant Zooms and I'm on constant being available for everybody. What percentage said they're always on? And the final question, which comes from the Steve Samantz partnership again. If you were working in the UK in fast-moving consumer goods in marketing, so it's a marketing job, you're in the UK, fast-moving consumer goods. You are a marketing director. If you are a woman, how much less in thousands of pounds on average do you get paid than a man doing exactly the same job? So it's thousands of pounds I'm looking for. And here are the answers. Question number 1, how many women said they are satisfied with their organization's decision-making? 40%, less than half. 40% are satisfied. Remember, men are 70. So you get 2 points if you said 40. If you're within 10%, you get 1 more point. Question number 2, what percentage of women in work in COVID said that they feel always on? This is a shocking number. And that says a couple of things if you are that person. If you are that leader, please take the advice that you're advised if you can remember being on a plane, which is put your oxygen mask on first and then worry about the others. You're way too important to let yourself run down like that. Second point, as leaders of people who have people who are in that position, your job is to listen and help and to advise and to create more space. We had a brilliant session by Sue Firth on the chemistry of performance. And effectively, that is about the hormones and steroids in our body, which occur naturally, but which are affected by what we do and when we do it. So always on will create way too much cortisol in your body and nowhere near enough serotonin. So I just want you to think about that. Final question, question number 3. If you're within 5 percentage points of that, it's 1 point. 76, it's 2 points. Final question. What is the difference in salary between people doing exactly the same job, marketing director, fast-moving consumer goods? And the answer is, if you're a woman, you will be, in all likelihood, on average, paid £18,873 less. Now, this is not a political chat from me. I just think that is a disgrace. And we are all leaders. And so there's no question we have a role in that, because we all recruit, we all either endorse the policies within our company or we reject them. And so I just want you to think about that, because that is what leadership is. And I'm going to give you 2 quotes of definitions of leadership. I'm going to start with mine, relevant to that last question. Leadership, a leader, takes us to a better place. A leader takes us to a better place. A manager gets things done on time in full, through people, gets the results. That's management. A leader takes us to a better place. And I frankly want to live in a world, in a country where we're way better than that margin of salary difference between men and women doing exactly the same job. So that's my definition of leadership. I'm now going to give you Simon Sinek's definition. I love Simon Sinek. This comes from his book, Infinite Mindset. Here is his definition of leadership, and it plays beautifully to some of the words we talk about here: engage, listen. Here it is. A leader understands that their responsibility is to take care of those around us, so that those people feel that someone has their back and provides a safe space to share and grow together. I think it's pretty cool. I'll say it again. The responsibility to take care of those around us so that they feel someone has their back and provides a safe space to share and grow together. So that's pretty cool. Now, in order to bring to life the 4 stages of leadership that Amanda and her team run for Uspire, and by the way, they're behind me there. If you pin me, you probably can see that. Vision, mobilize, develop, and enable. To bring it to life, I'm going to tell you a story about a leader that I admire hugely, who is utterly inspirational and takes her team and, well, frankly, everyone in America, in my view, to a better place. It brings to life beautifully these steps because they are sequential. And through COVID, if you're a leader of a business, what your team is craving for more than anything is clarity. Clarity and hope. And that comes from vision. And it comes from communicating in a way that mobilizes people. So this is hugely relevant for you as leaders right now. And the person I'm going to tell you a story about is called Missy Park. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of the background to this. When Amanda created this, this comes from 2 brilliant people, Ali Stewart, another speaker on the network, and Derek Biddle. And they have done exhaustive research on brilliant leadership. And Ali's book is called Liberating Leadership, an absolute must read. Ali Stewart, Derek Biddle, Liberating Leadership. So that's the process. Amanda and I have, over the number of years now, maybe 10 years, we've said that when we find a leader that truly inspires us, that we should interview them. And we should interview them with some rigor. So we have 8 standard questions, because what we want to extract, what we want to steal with pride is, what do they do and how do they do it to make them such an amazing leader? So over the last 10 years or so, when I've been traveling the world, and I do so because I simply love it, I love learning about different cultures in different ways, I found amazing leaders in Japan, China, Brazil, the US, Mexico. And so I've interviewed them. I've asked them to give me time to interview them. And Missy is a friend of a friend, so she was introduced to me. And I said, tell me your story. Missy was brought up in South Carolina. Now that's a southern US state. And it's not liberal. It's conservative with a big C. And so when she was growing up, Missy had a natural talent for sport. I mean, truly amazing. She ran incredibly fast, a brilliant tennis player, absolutely phenomenal basketball player. So she went through the ranks of high school and then college and became what they say in America is All-American, which means you are international. You represent your country. phenomenal, competitive, talented basketball player. But when she was at college, she reflected that she'd spent her whole athletic life wearing men's clothing. Everything she wore. She said even the first sports bra she wore were two men's jock straps fused together. And she said, you know, there's something wrong with that. And she said, I have a vision. And that vision is that every woman in America initially, and it's now bigger than that, who wants to live an active life. So this isn't just about sport. This is be active, be out there, go on treks, whatever that activeness means, has the access to the right equipment, which is safe, comfortable, and yeah, fashionable. Why not? So that was her vision. And she started a company in 1989 called Title IX. Now, Title IX is an interesting one. And in American law in 1972, they passed a law called Title IX. And it said to every school in America, school being as kids, but also colleges, universities, you had to give the same money and opportunity to women as men. So if you had equipment for a particular sport for men, women had to have the same amount. So it's pretty cool. And in 1989, Missy started a company called Title IX. She used that name quite deliberately. And she's gone through quite a journey with her company. She worked out she needed about $500,000 to start it up. And she knew plenty of people from her college days who had the money to invest in that. She thought, I don't want to do that because I feel it would put too much pressure on me. And I think I want my business to follow my values. I think the more stakeholders, maybe not. So she said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hire for attitude, train for skills, and coach for high performance. It's the first time I've ever heard that expression. And she said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite anyone with the same values as me, who has the same vision, to join my company. Salaries would be low because I don't have much money until we generate the revenue to pay higher salaries. I just want people who want what I want in terms of vision. And she got some amazing people right up front, and they got an amazing start. But what she did to mobilize that team was to be incredibly explicit. So she said to people with talent and smarts and energy, she said, your specific job is this. And I'm going to be very specific what the job is. And I'm going to give you 3 months to learn it because you don't know it. Online retailing, don't know it. 3 months to find out. Find the people who are best at it, drain them of their knowledge, and then bring it to my company. That's how she mobilized her business. And incredibly, despite a major crash in 2008, a major problem with her business in 2014, Title IX is still the largest independent clothing retailer in the US. It's an unbelievably brilliant business. So if you're there, you can play sport in the office. So they've got breakout areas for basketball or table tennis or God knows what. They're currently investing in an outdoor adult play area so that when you need to take a break and get the chemical balance in your body right, you can step outside the office undistracted and do something physical, which is kind of fun. They've got the ability and they welcome the family, including pets, to be brought to work. So that whole environment has been created by the whole company because she engages her team and she listens. So Missy's the embodiment for me of simply brilliant leadership. She follows this and she says to the team, what development do you need? What specific training do you need me to give you in order to be successful? So I finished the interview with Missy and I was just blown away. She has such an aura about her and had a quite close relationship with President Obama, all that, a phenomenal human being. And at the end of the session, she said, I haven't been asked questions that provocative since I was at college. She said, I need you to coach me and I need you to coach my team to be that provocative, that thought-provoking. And so I had the privilege of being a coach for a little while for Missy and her team, which still gives me goosebumps. So why did I tell you that story? I told you that story because I wanted to inspire you. I wanted to make you think possibility. I want you to make you think like she does now, Missy. One of her campaigns at the moment is she's campaigning to get more women into office. In America, she's worked out that there are 500,000 officials in public office, 500,000. And her target is to get 250,000 to be women. And you can imagine why that's an important thing to do in America right now. So she's constantly innovating. She's constantly inspirational. And I wanted, as a final part of my input, to leave you with that Missy story. And we're going to give you a breakout now. We're going to manage a breakout in just a moment. The breakout is super short. It's going to be 3 minutes, and it's a chance for everyone to connect on the learning. And I want you to think very specifically. What have you learned? And what are you going to do? And that could be as a leader, or it could be as a salesperson. What have you learned? And what are you going to do? That is the breakout. It's 3 minutes long. And Chester, can I check in with you that that's okay to set up? Big thumbs up. So I'm going to see everybody in 3 minutes. Enjoy getting to know each other. See you in 3 minutes.
Jonathan, would you like to jump in a room? Amanda, would you like to go into a room?
Yes, please. Looks like Mark's gone into one.
I'll put him in his own room, actually, so that he could come back out again, yeah.
Just to be quiet on his own for a minute.
Yeah, give him some space. Yeah.
He's on fire today. Yeah, I'll go in a room. Thanks.
I can't see you, Amanda, bizarrely. You might have to join yourself, because
Yeah,
you are the host.
I can do that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll join one. No problems. I'll just have a look, see if anybody's in a pair. Yeah, good.
Hi there, Alan. Hi there, Alan. You come back into the main room. Alan, it's Chester from Uspire here. Your phone is on mute, and you come back into the main room. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to come back out. Ah, there you are. Come off mute now.
Good. Excellent. It's been very worthwhile. Thoroughly enjoyed it, Chester.
Good. Yeah, we've just got a final minute or so before we pull people back out of the breakout groups. So I noticed you jumped into a room, and then obviously it looked like you came back out again. So
that's been really good. It's been inspirational. Well done.
All right. Well, look, I will carry on doing the logistics in the background.
Yeah, no, you carry on. That's no problem.
Alan Coates.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm very, very well. Alan was one of my leaders in my career as a salesperson, so it's awesome to see you.
It's delightful to be here.
Give me, I'm eating a banana, Alan. Sorry.
Good for you.
Tucked into the fruit bowl, Mark.
I'm going through the fruit bowl.
Oh, that's lovely. How's all the family? They're all well?
Top drawer, Alan. Thank you very much.
Good.
And Sue
good
and the
stuff.
gang?
Yeah, they're all fine, thanks. Yeah, not bad at all.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
Very
welcome
good.
back. Welcome back, everyone. I think we've got everyone back. Is that right, Chester? I've got thumbs up from Chester. So I just wanted to complete the session in terms of reflecting back, actually. I started by talking to you about my very first boss, who was called Liz, and how good a leader is someone who 40 years later, I still vividly remember the guidance and inspiration I got from Liz. And I think more than anything, that's what I hope I've done in this session, is to trigger your thinking about how you can, as a leader, make a fundamental difference to the people in your business and your business, and especially from a commercial point of view. Think about and do something to win back that key customer of value that you lost. Be super smart about how your online brand looks and impacts others, and choose just one element of what you've picked up today and make a decision to educate someone else in that thing. So I'm delighted to hand back to Colin.
Thank you, Mark. That's been absolutely fantastic. If we can give him a quick virtual round of applause, you don't need to turn your mics on, but I think we can just appreciate what's been a very engaging session. So thank you very much indeed. Really, the Uspire network, as you can see, is a powerful way of increasing your awareness and effectiveness as a leader. We have a diverse range of industry peers who are fellow members to access. It's like being surrounded by diamond mines. So whenever you've got a problem, you always find somebody who can help you. The latest research suggests that around 55% of leaders already highly value peer-to-peer networking experiences. However, 76% are reluctant to ask for help. Finally, then 60% actually do not even find the opportunity or confidential environment in which they can experience the peer-to-peer engagement. I think really after today, you can do three things. Firstly, learn something from today, which has been absolutely very powerful, but then you can forget all about the Uspire business concept. What I prefer you to do is this: read our powerful testimonials, book a free 60-minute coaching session with one of our team to really experience the value that it can add. Or finally, at the very least, book a 15-minute tell me more call and discover why we can deliver a 5-to-1 return for our business partners, and you'll be able to learn about our future events, which we've got one coming up shortly, which I'm sure Amanda is going to introduce you to. So thank you very much indeed. And please take those 2 points on the screen seriously. We're here to help and we want to add value. Amanda.
I'm flipping well mute. One of the things that is absolutely for sure is we are not going back to leading how we used to. Another percentage for you here is 12%. 12% of our teams want to go back to where we were before. As leaders, we've got 3 levels to influence. We've got to influence our strategic intent and strategic change, and boy, is there going to be lots of that. We've got to influence our peers and our own leadership teams. And then, of course, we've got to get the best possible results through people. So building on what Mark has talked you through in terms of our VDME leadership approach, our next Discovery Day at 9:45 on the 17th of March, please put it in your diary, is all about how on earth you're going to keep all those balls in the air and make sure you get the best possible results through your people. We have absolutely loved having you here. It's been our biggest ever. And thank you so much to Mark. Rand, please unmute. A round of applause for Mark. Let's have a quick unmute. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. unmute. Quick round of applause for Mark. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Absolutely brilliant on form. Thank you, Mark. And I'm going to wish you goodbye. Have a great weekend. We have got one more day. Have a great weekend. And we wish you a very, very successful release into society in the next few months.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amanda.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.